involving qualified individuals for excellence. Tanzania exemplary dealing with the effects of COVID-19.
But of course we have to look at them for sustainability.
Good evening, I am Faida Ngaga. You can also follow us live via our YouTube channel, TBC Online. Also get all the latest news through our Instagram, Facebook and Twitter pages at TBC Online. President Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan has instructed the new ministry in the president's office designated for planning and investment to find Tanzanians with the right qualifications inside and outside of Tanzania so that they can come and build the ministry for the development of the country. Lulua Mohammed has more details.
President Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan administers the oath of the newly appointed ministers, deputy ministers and other government leaders at the State House in Dar es Salaam. Following President Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan, here Dr. Mwigulu Nchemba is sworn in as the Minister of Finance, Dr. Ashatu Kijaji as Minister of Industry and Trade, and Professor Kitila Mkumbo as the first Minister of the new Ministry of Planning and Investment. The Vice President, Dr. Philip Mpango, starts with specific instructions to these government officials.
Kazi ya pili muhimu.
The second important task is to determine the strategic direction of our country in the short term, medium term, and long term. And the third that will face you immediately is to lead the preparation for the national vision for the year 2050.
President Samia Suluhu Hassan elaborates why she decided to form the new Ministry of Planning and Investment in charge of important institutions such as the Investment Center, the Planning Commission, and the Treasury.
Tumeweka maeneo matatu hayo ili serikali isomane.
We have set those three areas so that the government sectors can connect to each other. What will come from there will have already been considered in the investment sector, but the Treasury Registrar will have already given his opinion on the flow of government assets and planning. They will have planned and put it in its place. President Samia directs the new Minister of Planning and Investment under Professor Kitila Mkumbo to welcome Tanzanians with the right qualifications inside and outside of Tanzania so that they can come and build the ministry for the development of the country.
Tunakosolewa huku kushoto, kulia, kusini, kaskazini, mpaka nje, mpaka wapi.
If you read on the internet, we are criticized in different ways. For those who feel they have a good contribution, you can opt in and become part of the Planning Commission. Tanzania is for all of us, so let's all think for our country. President Samia says that any change is difficulty, and she urges the ministry and its institutions not to be hesitant to bring needed change for the development of the nation.
Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Finance, Dr. Natu Mwamba says the Tanzanian government will continue to allocate funds to support special groups, including people with disabilities, as part of dealing with the effects of COVID-19, as well as fighting poverty. She expressed the commitment while commenting on how countries of Tanzania, Finland, and Zambia were able to deal with the effects of COVID-19 in social groups, including people with special needs, during the United Nations high-level political forum meetings in New York. Here are more details.
Dr. Mwamba says government was largely successful in dealing with the effects of COVID-19 through an interest-free loan of 1.3 trillion shillings provided by the International Monetary Fund, IMF, where several projects were initiated and implemented in the sectors of education, health, water, tourism, and supporting poor households.
So we really took it up that the funds that we had was focused on these two aspects, and there is a change, and we see a lot of change. So these are programs that we have in our countries. But of course, we have to look at them for sustainability. And I think in our budget in Tanzania, we have started to move in funds for sustainability of, we have TASAF there. So much as we receive funds from the World Bank, but we are programming in our budgets now so that we can take it over when the funds are not available.
She furthermore other countries to involve the private sector in dealing with similar disasters when they occur.
Besides the sanitizers, the masks, the private sector has taken up having, of course, in factories, industries, but the oxygen part is also been taken care of.
Initially opening the meeting, the permanent representative of Tanzania to the United Nations, Ambassador Hussein Katanga, explains the importance of various countries to set effective strategies and policies to deal with disasters like COVID-19 and have integrated plans to empower citizens economically and socially.
Government actionable recommendation for policymakers and practitioners developed. As we grapple the need to balance the state's need to manage such emergency in the future, it is important that we consider the needs of those most at risk, especially people with disabilities. And the only way we are doing this right by leaving no one behind, by having policy of inclusiveness. The role of both private and public sector is vital in developing a well-functioning responsive system.
On their part, the representatives of the countries of Finland and Zambia call on the international community as well as the private sector to continue to cooperate with the governments in providing essential services and to fully prepare during disasters.
Implemented from the context of the policy measures are those that have have focused on provision of health care, social protection, provision of education, especially for not just youth, but also for children with disabilities.
The second thing is that we need to take intersectional approach to vulnerabilities because it helps us to understand the risk factors of marginalization. Most risk vulnerabilities are intersecting. And then when looking at the concrete examples, accessibility in the physical environments and in communication is a crucial prerequisite for attainment of the rights of disabled persons.
The meeting involves various groups, including non-governmental organizations, where the discussion focuses on how countries managed to reach special groups during the 19 epidemic and put together strategies for future.
From New York, let's come back to Dar, where the government says there are no binding conditions for Tanzania regarding the areas of cooperation specified in the agreement between Dubai and Tanzania, unless there are specific agreements for the implementation of the projects to be discussed and agreed upon by both parties. It's a report by Salma Hamim, read to you by Lulua Mohammed.
Editors are here to meet the Minister for Works and Transport, along with some of his key executives. The main issue to be discussed here is the Dar es Salaam Port Investment Agreement.
Issues of ports are union issues. Why don't they hear that DP World invests in Zanzibar ports? I think the answers are there. We have been listening to what President Mwinyi was talking about.
The minister responsible for Works and Transport, Professor Makame Mbarawa, says that the government's goal is to increase the efficiency of the port in order to attract more customers and hence increase income.
The port of Dar es Salaam is very important for the economy of our country. As my colleague said, 37% of the government budget comes from the port of Dar es Salaam. If we are able to invest well and find a smart investor, about 67% of the government budget will come from the port.
Professor Mbarawa adds that upon implementation of the agreement, more jobs will be created as the result and will also increase cargo shipments and other activities at the port.
It will reduce the time the ship stays at the port from 5 days to 24 hours. This will reduce the cost of using our port. And as a result, it will increase the number of ships that will come to Dar es Salaam port from 1,569 ships in 2021 to 2022 to 2,950 ships by 2032.
On his part, the Director General of Tanzania Civil Aviation Authority TCAA, who is also the chairman of the Reconciliation Committee on Dar es Salaam Port Investment Agreement, Hamza Johari, explains some of the aspects of the agreement, including the participation of local workers in the port activities and the partnership between the government and the company that will come to invest in the country.
Article 13, employee involvement, where we have said he must ensure that he cares for and respects the jobs of our employees, especially those he will find, and has a plan to provide training to our professionals.
The investment at the Dar es Salaam port is expected to bring about a major revolution in the operations of the port, making Dar es Salaam port the main gateway for importing and exporting products.
The U.S. Biden administration has committed to renew the African Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA, as calls for equal trade between Africa and U.S. deepen. Blanche Gores from Botswana has more details.
Despite being endowed with strategic natural resources, Africa accounts for only about 2% of the world's gross domestic product, and this is what the US-Africa Summit is seeking to address. The platform is touted as a key pillar on Africa's engagement with the world's largest economy, the US, and creating a strong, balanced, transparent, and inclusive trading system which benefits all nations. Therefore, the participants are to explore available financing from the US government, institutional investors of US and African banks.
Access to capital is the lifeblood of business and economic growth, and we're focused on mobilizing capital to the private sector. Already, DFC has the largest share of our portfolio, more than $11 billion dedicated to investments on the continent. Since December, we've committed another $110 million in financing to new projects across Africa, and in recent weeks, DFC and our board of directors has approved more than $750 million in additional deals.
It also comes against the backdrop of the Biden administration committing more than $50 billion in foreign assistance to invest in Africa over the next 3 years. Human capital, infrastructure, digital connectivity, agribusiness, sustainable energy, health systems, and peace and security are some of the priority areas.
I'm fully cognizant of the fact that and reality that ultimately the responsibility for the economic and social transformation of the African continent lies with us as African nations and leaders. We therefore stand ready and eager to take advantage of your presence and availability as representatives of the United States government and utilize this summit as an essential platform and long-term endeavor toward building a stronger 21st century US-Africa partnership.
Namibia's Vice President Nangolo Mbumba stated the country's case in attracting private sector-led investments to add value to crucial resources. One such is the green hydrogen development, where Namibia is not limiting partnerships to only one country or continent.
We need cooperation with our neighbors. We need stronger financial and energy companies to come in. We are talking about the new source of energy now. We have an arrangement with the US on hydrogen, with the European Union, and with many, many other countries. As we move to the new source of energy, we cannot forget what we are doing now. As I said already, schools and clinics and hospitals and buildings need energy.
The summit is the largest private sector gathering and has seen a number of African countries further review existing partnerships to be responsive to the current needs.
The news, the UK Prime Minister's Special Envoy on Girls' Education, Helen Grant, and the Director of Education, Gender and Equalities, Alicia Herbert, say their government is ready to cooperate with Tanzania to ensure girls are provided with quality education across the country. They made their remarks in Dar es Salaam when the two envoys had a meeting with journalists, insisting that the strategy sets out how the United Kingdom will protect and empower women and girls internationally.
That investing in girls is an absolute game changer because of its transformational effect. The child of a mother who can read is 50% more likely to live beyond the age of 5, twice as likely to go to school themselves, 50% more likely to be immunised.
Third aspect of our strategy around ending violence against women and girls. Again, we saw that in action yesterday. So, here we are, key aspect of the bilateral relationship and seeing that strategy in action, and therefore gives a huge amount of kind of hope in terms of continuing to take that forward and continuing to work together in order to protect and to progress the rights of women and girls.
On the other hand, the British High Commissioner to Tanzania, David Konkar, commends the sixth-term government for the endless efforts to make this strategy a success.
Positive momentum and political energy directed towards promoting the rights and access to services of women and girls in Tanzania. And that has been particularly noticeable under the administration of Her Excellency President Samia Suluhu Hassan.
The UK's International Women and Girls Strategy focuses on ending gender-based violence by maintaining equality, freedom and rights to women and girls, ensuring they all reach their full potential. Now let's have a look at other stories. The Director of Communication and Development Bongo Kids, Imani Lipumba, says creativity is one of the ways that can support children to learn various things and develop their mental and intellectual capabilities through animations. He made the remark in Dar es Salaam during the 10th anniversary of the establishment of Bongo Kids in Tanzania. Emmanuel Samuel was there and has prepared the following report.
Bongo Kids is an educational cartoon show that teaches 7 to 14 years olds math, science and life skills through fun and animated stories. And today different people have gathered here at Mlimani City in Dar es Salaam to celebrate 10 years of its establishment and social impacts obtained from various programs.
At the beginning, when our co-founders started, they really were focused on supporting children in Tanzania because they saw that there was a lot of learning need in Tanzania. As my co-founders have spoken, children were, afraid of certain subjects, and learning was seen as, this thing that was not fun.
In addition, the director explains that until now, Bongo Kids has succeeded in reaching more than 20 countries in Africa that speak different languages and has made a great contribution in encouraging children to love school.
Kenya was the second country that we launched, and then soon, by going through different conferences, in conversation with different creators, there continued to be more and more interest for the Bongo Kids content.
The Director General of the Tanzania Commission of Science and Technology, Dr. Amos Nungu, who was official guest at the ceremony, also had a word about Bongo Kids, while some of the education stakeholders who have participated in the event expressed their views on the Ubongo Kids program.
Ubongo is not only aligning with the government's aspiration, but also actively contributing to the realization of its digital transformation agenda. I therefore commend Ubongo for their 10 years of dedication, efforts in supporting the education agenda. And I would say, even my kids, they enjoy the content.
When the pitch of Bongo came through, it was very clear. First of all, everyone was shocked. Why were they shocked? Because this came from Tanzania. Even today, people don't believe Ubongo. When I travel around Africa, people don't believe Ubongo comes from Tanzania, right? And so that is a huge achievement.
Thank you so much, Ubongo, for that partnership with Youth Initiative for Development in Africa.
Until now, Ubongo Kids has managed to reach more than 30 million people per month through different TV programs. Reporting from Dar es Salaam, Emmanuel Samuel, TBC News.
Now let's dive deep into the tourism sector. The African elephant is the largest mammal on Earth, with a height of about 13 feet and weight of 7 tons. The African elephant is also known as the savanna elephant. To get more insight about this animal, let's take a listen at Margaret Getty, who has prepared the following report.
These gigantic animals are the largest land mammals on Earth, with a height of about 13 feet and weighs up to 7 tons. African elephants are slightly larger than their Asian relatives, and they can be defined by their larger ears and somehow looks like the shape of the African continent. Known to the world as ecosystem engineers, African elephants are keystone species, meaning they play a critical role in the ecosystem. Elephants shape their habitat in many ways. During the dry season, they use their tusk to dig up riverbeds and create watering holes many animals can drink from. Their dung is full of seeds, helping plants spread across the environment, and it makes pretty good habitat for insects such as dung beetles. In the forest, their feasting on trees and shrubs create pathways for smaller animals to move through. And in the savanna, they uproot trees and eat saplings, which help to keep the landscape open for zebras and other plain animals to thrive in. Elephants' ears radiate heat to keep these giants cool when the heat is too much. Elephants are fond of water and enjoy showering by sucking water into their trunks and spraying it all over themselves. Afterwards, they often spray their skin with a protecting coating of dust, and this action is known as wallowing. An elephant's trunk is usually a long nose used for smelling, breathing, trumpeting, drinking, and also for grabbing things, especially a potential meal. The trunk alone contains about 40,000 muscles. African elephants have 2 finger-like features on the end of their trunk that they can use to grab small items. The elephant's trunk is known as the hand of wonders because of its ability to function in many activities possible.
Thank you, Margaret Getty, for that report. Now, before we wind up our local news, let us take a look at today's exchange rates according to the Bank of Tanzania, BOT. Don't miss TBC News every weekday to know all the latest in exchange rates. Time now for all the latest in international news. And here is international news compiled by Dorothy Mari and read to you by Esero Mafuru.
Leaders from Sudanese 6 neighboring countries met in Egypt's capital Cairo for peace talks since conflict erupted in Sudan in mid-April this year. The meeting, hosted by the Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, was attended by the leaders of Ethiopia, South Sudan, Chad, Eritrea, the Central African Republic and Libya. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi says delegates expressed deep concern about the deteriorating humanitarian situation in Sudan.
Allow me to seize this opportunity to present to you Egypt's vision for Sudan's exit from its crisis, which is based on the following elements. First, calling all warring parties to stop the escalation and begin serious negotiations aimed at an immediate and continuous ceasefire. Second, call all Sudanese parties to facilitate all humanitarian supplies and open safe passage that leads to the most needed area inside Sudan, and putting in place a mechanism to guarantee protection for humanitarian aid convoys and international relief employees to facilitate their work.
The leaders reached an agreement to form a ministerial mechanism at the level of foreign ministers of neighboring countries. The ministers are to put an executive working plan that includes practical and implementable solutions and reach a comprehensive solution to the Sudanese crisis. In another...
That was international news. Sports news is up next. And in sports news, the football analyst Dominic Salamba says early preparation for the Tanzania football national team Taifa Stars will help to qualify for FIFA World Cup 2026 from Group E. Speaking to TBC News in Dar es Salaam, Salamba insists that Taifa Stars needs to play different international friendly matches to give players experience before the qualifying matches start.
This is a tough group. But in any tough group, it is where we can triumph to the next stage. So it is better we start preparation by putting good strategies. I hope we will qualify.
The Tanzania features in Group E with Qatar 2022 semi-finalists Morocco. Other teams in the group are Eritrea, Niger, Congo-Brazzaville, and Zambia. Now that's it for the sports news. Let's take a look at the weather forecast for the next 24 hours.
Yeah, viewer, and welcome to the weather forecast. This is the weather forecast for the next 24 hours from Tanzania Meteorological Authority. Now let's start our weather forecast by looking at a wind pattern. The wind is expected to flow at 40 km per hour from south for northern coast and from southeast for the southern coast. State of the ocean is expected to be rough. Lake Nyasa, the wind is expected to flow at 40 km per hour from southwest. State of the lake is expected to be rough. Lake Tanganyika and Lake Victoria, the wind is expected to flow at 40 km per hour from southeast. State of the lake is expected to be rough. Therefore, Tanzania Meteorological Authority issue advisory of strong wind and large waves, especially Lake Victoria, Lake Tanganyika, Lake Nyasa, northern coast and the southern coast. Please take precaution. The lowest minimum temperature is expected to be 5 degrees Celsius over Mbeya. Tonight, most part of the country will experience dry condition. But tomorrow, over Tanga, Unguja and Pemba will feature part cloudy condition, light rain shower over few area and sun period. The remaining part of the country will feature part cloudy condition and sun period. Now let's finish our weather forecast by looking at weather forecast for the 4 days from the day after tomorrow. Thank you very much and have a wonderful night.
And on that note, we're ending our news bulletin for tonight. Don't miss our next bulletin in Kiswahili at 11 p.m. I am Faithan Gaga. Have a lovely, lovely weekend.